In this episode of Project Kev, we remove all of this from the Fiesta loom. So we'll just take a moment to thank Dan from Uber Tuning over in Cambridgeshire. I'll put a link down below. Mentioned him a few times. He has been an absolute legend. Sending me diagrams for this loom, which is quite useful. Loom diagrams for ABS and the airbag system and the camber system, because it's vastly more complicated. So big up to Dan. He'll also be mapping this thing, removing certain systems, removing the immobilizer, etc., so we can just run it in the Mini without any of those problems, removing the ABS system, etc., etc. All those things that flag lights up, basically, that we're not going to be using, the systems we're not going to be using. So massive, big thumbs up for Dan. Right, now let's get on with it. In that box holds quite a large key to getting this working. But before we open it, let's get the loom all plugged back in on the engine, because we unplugged it in places so it sort of didn't foul and we didn't break it. And then very carefully put the engine back in the engine bay, back on the subframe. Hope the mods that we made last time are all the final mods we need to make again, and start thinking about how to actually make it run. So let's do that. Engine in there again. So just to give you an idea of the nature of all this, in the middle, that's the entire loom for the Mini. Every wire needed to run a Mini, including clocks and a load of switches as well. What surrounds it is the loom from a Fiesta, not including clocks, ECU, switches. There's the odd switch. So now it's time to work this out. Basically, I've got a repeat loom over there, so that section there is actually what's already on the engine. So we can disconnect that and use that as a connecting point to start things off. We'll go and get the clocks and the ECU, and we'll get some labels, and we'll start working it out. We have an interior fuse box and an exterior fuse box. We've got things like that's throttle and clutch buttons, etc. Switches. I found over there an OBD switch, so that's really important. So one of those plugs is likely to connect. There's also a USB, so that's probably audio. So we'll plug in what I have, start working out what I need, just at least see if we can start the engine. Okay, it's late, my back can't stand it anymore. There's no workbench to contain all this. It might not look like I've made much progress, but I have removed all of that. There's still a little bit of airbag system, still a little bit of ABS, that's the plug. Basically that all loom can go, that's wipers and front lights. A little bit of front lights and left of the ABS airbag system over there. Tiny bit left in this area. Airbag light plug thing, and a little bit of stereo left. And then a dubious wire here. I'm hoping I can remove most of that. Don't know what that plug is yet, need to research that. Okay everyone, we've spent another evening thinning the loom down. Another big pile of wire. There's a big box somewhere, I'll show it all at the end. A few odd little plugs I still quite haven't worked out, but my back gets too tired after a while. I'd love a nice big workbench for it all to be on, but I can't do that. So a couple of little plugs over there too I'm not sure about. Basically we've got a fuel pump, we've then got a cigarette lighter, power, and I'm going to use this one, the Mini one doesn't come with it, so that's good wiring for that. Switches for brake pedal, clutch. We'll get rid of the brake pedal ones, but the clutch one's obviously important, just to make sure I do pin it out basically for use. I might fit it, not sure, it does things with the map. Throttle cable, throttle pedal obviously. Loads more loom that's not necessary. Clocks, ignition, it's now on the Mini one, and OBD, X data connect, what do they call them? Millions of earths, I don't know why there's one common earth. This I think is quite necessary. This has got a unit coming on for this. They call it a DC to DC converter on the auto data diagrams and the diagrams I've seen, but basically it's the stop-start function module as well. Now whether you've got stop-start on these or not, you have this module, and as it's currently not starting and there's a signal wire to the ECU from this, I've ordered it. It was about 13 quid or something, so I've ordered that. I'm going to plug that in and see if that helps. I very happily removed one plug. I don't think I'm very far off removing a couple other plugs, but I just need to check exactly what they do. Basically it's lighting. There's just a couple, like 2 cables for that plug and that's all gone. There's just like 2 cables on that plug. I think most of those, I think 3 or 4 of those plugs will just go, but I just need to confirm those. Loads of these fuses and that will go, but I'll probably just keep this in order so it's all set as per the manual I've downloaded. It's spot on, and then we'll make maybe a small fuse box. You can buy plenty on eBay that can just hold, I think there's about 4 fuses I need on this. I need that and I need that, and that's it. So I'll probably be doing that, a tiny little fuse box just under the dash, and sort of thin this wiring down to about 1/4 of what we need. I'll run a loom to the back for the fuel pump, and that's it on this loom basically. A lot less scary. Basically taped it up and sort of positioned things better. I've done a few curls in some wires, twists, just to make them sort of ready. Not fully done the loom, as I'm not 100% sure on it yet. And then other sections like this, you can see I've actually managed to remove a couple of plugs, and then I've been removing all the old cut off wires, taking the pins out. The same with these plugs. Obviously that will be redundant very soon, as will this one basically. Or I might switch those over to this one, because you don't need a huge loom looping all the way around the car. Obviously we just need to go onto the dash. Done the same in the fuse box, so there ain't much left in there. We'll obviously put a little mini fuse box in with a couple of relay holders. That's all we need, and that's the engine bay one. So 2 options really when it comes to actually installing it. One is to reduce both and have 2 small ones, and another option is to put what I need in here into there. If I could find a cover for it, the OEM ones, much higher quality than cheap eBay jobs. And then I've also, because we had all these earths everywhere, I've done a couple of main earths running right down through the loom. I can understand kind of why they do it, but I've also been taking away the things that had the earths, like the ABS sensors and the stereo and stuff like that. So then we have a central earth point. I probably will put one behind the dash and then one in the engine bay, because obviously one thing's the sensors and one thing is behind the dash, and then there's just basically the terminals for the battery. So what I'm hoping is to package it all in a box like that, with the data connector, the clocks, and the ECU all at the top of the box, and the power. So all Dan has to do is open the box up, put some jump leads on the power, plug in his ECU, and fix this mess digitally, obviously, because I've fixed it physically, hopefully. Okay, a quick wiring recap. It's come back from Dan at Uber Tuning. Thank you very much, Dan. It was a quick turnaround. Obviously had to send it to him in a box, and he's got it to me back in a box again, all safe. The ECU is immobilised. We've not got that connected right now. The information he has is I can remove the instrument cluster, which would be handy. I think I'm going down the route of using the original ones, the original clocks, and just simply the wire signal that goes to ECU to start, take a little T off it and go straight into the starter relay, which is in that box there. So we'll supply the one side with an earth. We'll test that we can actually fire it off with power to the other side, disconnect the wires from the relay from, so say, the ECU, and see if we can get it cranking just on the key without the ECU plugged in. The coils are unplugged anyway. Once we're happy with that, we'll plug in the ECU and we'll see if she tries to fire. Also be interested to see if she fires up the fuel tank too, with a fuel pump. So, well, let's switch out that. It's pretty boring stuff. I'm just going to switch some wires around, and it'd be good if we can get rid of the instrument cluster. I'd like to know how I can get the engine management light somewhere, but that's a worry for a later day. Alright, so if I've done what I think I need to do correctly, we have teed into the signal to the ECU, which I still believe it probably need, but the ECU isn't connected. However, we have earthed one side of that relay for the starter, and we've teed into the other. So technically, if I turn this key to start, the engine should crank. That's a good start. Next, let's plug in the ECU, check nothing weird happens, see hopefully if the ECU will fire up the fuel, because we've got no fuel in it, no fuel in the rail, etc. And then we'll crank again, and then we will plug the coils in. Ah, interesting, no throttle. Right. Let's plug in the body control module. No, we've got that plugged in. Let's plug the clocks back in.
I think this instrument cluster works on the fuel pump and some of the sensors, like, for instance, throttle and the clutch. So let's see what we get now. Okay, now will the throttle work? Yep, throttle works. Still not got fuel. Whee! So we were getting fuel pressure. That's for sure. We need to get a better clamp for that. Okay. Right, let's start the video. I'll sort that out, that clamp. We're getting fuel. And I might check there's fuel at the rail.